This is absolutely outrageous. It's inexcusable that Congress does not pass these. And we can get into the blame game here, but the reality is the President of the United States has got an iron grip over what the Republicans in the Senate do.
The Democrats have taken on full obstructionist mode. They've put their opposition to President Trump ahead of the country.
This is Today As It Happened. Good Thursday evening. I'm Stephanie Liebergen, here to guide you through our timeline of the day's most important news, from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem testifying before a House committee to the first court appearance of the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk. So let's jump right in. The House Homeland Security Committee is holding a hearing, their annual regular hearing, on worldwide threats to the homeland. Let's listen in as they are going through some of their opening statements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member, for holding this hearing today and inviting me to be a part of it. I'm looking forward to discussing the worldwide threats that this country faces and the work that President Trump and his administration does each and every day to make America safe again. I'm very privileged and honored today to have my family with me. I'd like to introduce them to you.
Disruptions of congressional business is a violation of law, is a criminal offense under federal law. Audience members are advised to take their seats and maintain order. The chairman may now ask Capitol Police to remove and arrest the persons creating the disturbance. Secretary may continue.
Chairman, I'll continue. Just 2 weeks ago, the day before Thanksgiving, a terrorist shot 2 of our National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C., killing Sarah Beckstrom dead, and Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf is still fighting for his life. Fortunately, we've had some really good news about Andrew recently, and he had the opportunity to stand up and is a miracle, and we're so grateful for his family for being so strong. We continue to lift him up and pray he has a full recovery. The terrorist who shot them was an Afghan national who entered the United States under Operation Allies Welcome. The same week, we arrested another Afghan national who came in under the same program. He was planning to carry out a bombing in Fort Worth, Texas. And just last week, just miles away in Washington, D.C., we arrested another Afghan national who also came in under Operation Allies Welcome.
Who approved the asylum claim?
The application on the asylum was thoroughly filled out by information that was gathered by the Biden administration.
So the Biden administration approved the asylum.
The asylum application was put into place under the rules established by the Biden administration.
Reclaiming my time. I don't want to file perjury charges against you, but I'm of the opinion that the Trump administration, DHS, your DHS, approved the asylum application.
Madam Secretary, you promised America that you would go after the worst of the worst. But these people are not the worst of the worst. A Purple Heart recipient, a military spouse, the father of 3 Marines. And it's not just veterans and military families. You are locking up and deporting children with cancer, mothers with babies in the NICU, United States citizens. There are many problems with your leadership, but the biggest problem is this. You don't seem to know how to tell the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. Go after the bad guys. Go after the terrorists. Do not go after veterans, Marines, children,
Gentleman's
United
time's
States
expired.
citizens.
Can you discuss further what you're facing in these sanctuary cities and the illegal alien monsters that have been released into American communities under the Biden administration?
Yeah, unfortunately, Congresswoman, we arrest individuals like that every day because they're so prevalent on our streets, because of what happened under the Biden administration. Every day we're able to go out and encounter and bring to justice individuals who are raping our children, murdering our mothers, our grandmothers, our families are devastated by them. And I'm shocked at the Democrats' constant defense of these individual criminals over the American citizen.
Bottom line, you lie with impunity. You reject checks and balances, and you ignore Congress and the courts. Your options are limited. Either you're going to resign, Trump's going to fire you, or you will be impeached.
Now let's take a quick look at some of the other major headlines from today. And authorities in Kentucky have charged a 48-year-old man with murder and assault after the shooting at Kentucky State University. Jacob Lee Bard of Evansville, Indiana, is accused of killing one student and critically injuring another on campus Tuesday. Police say Bard is the parent of a student at the university. The shooting happened during finals week and was not a targeted attack. The Trump administration is being sued over plans to put the president's face on a national park annual pass. The Interior Department unveiled new commemorative designs for the America the Beautiful pass. One features President Trump alongside President George Washington. The Center for Biological Diversity filed suit Wednesday, arguing that federal law requires the pass to feature the winning photo from a National Park Foundation contest. The change is set for January. The Interior Department has not commented. Evacuation orders are now in effect as flooding reaches historic levels in Washington state. Officials warn as many as 100,000 people may be forced to leave their homes. The powerful floods have already washed out roads and left some people trapped. After 2 days of rain, another 4 to 8 inches of rain is possible today. Governor Bob Ferguson is pleading with residents to follow evacuation orders.
Let's head up to Capitol Hill, because happening now in Washington, Senate lawmakers are voting to keep health insurance premiums from skyrocketing for millions of Americans. And Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed joins us now live from Capitol Hill. He's been following this. So, Nate, we have the results from the Republican-led effort. What can you tell us?
It failed. The Republican-led effort failed. And look, this is not altogether that surprising up here on Capitol Hill. This is something that Republicans have put up at the last minute this week. They wanted to pass this Cassidy Crapo proposal to Republican senators to try and lower the cost of people's health care premiums by depositing money directly into health savings accounts that could go to the American people to help them pay down their deductibles. Now, it was not really expected to pass. This was kind of more of a messaging vote. And in some ways, the vote that's happening on the Senate floor right now as we speak, the Democrat proposal to extend those Affordable Care Act subsidies by 3 years, prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance over the next decade. That is a messaging vote as well. And as you can see on your screen, that vote is very nearly close to being done as well. Notable, though, on this vote, the number of Republicans who've crossed party lines to vote with Democrats on a 3-year clean extension of these COVID-era subsidies, first passed into law by President Joe Biden back in 2021. The Republicans voting with Democrats include Senator Josh Hawley, the Republican from Missouri, also Senator Susan Collins of Maine, and Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Again, two moderate Republicans who have in the past voted with Democrats on other key issues. But just notable here that it seems poised that the Senate is not going to get anything done on the issue of keeping health care affordable before the end of the year. And look, that's important. And in fact, you can hear that right now. They're just finishing up the votes on that bill. But this is notable for a number of reasons, Maritza. It seems likely that Americans are going to go into the end of the year, go into next year, without any sort of discount on those higher prices that they're already seeing at healthcare.gov if those subsidies are not extended. And at this point, it seems like time is all but run out for them to come up with some sort of extension. I caught up with Senator Bernie Moreno, Republican from Ohio, earlier today to ask him about the question of whether Republicans and Democrats can work across party lines to keep costs low. Take a listen.
I think the American people expect us to solve problems, but you need willingness on both sides. I worry, and I'll leave you guys with this. This is what I worry about. I worry that the Democrats actually don't want to solve the subsidy expiration. They certainly don't want to solve it for 94% of Americans. They just want a political issue.
Some of your colleagues, including Senator Cassidy, don't want to extend ACA subsidies at all. Have you spoken with them?
Well, I think the vast majority of my colleagues want to fix Obamacare. The challenge is we don't have 7 Republicans on the other side that actually want to join, 7 Democrats that want to join us in doing it.
And Maritza, literally in the time that soundbite has been playing, the Democratic proposal to extend those Affordable Care Act subsidies for 3 years without many other changes just failed. That final vote now all but ensuring that those subsidies are not going to continue into the new year. A lot of questions about whether the House of Representatives plans to take a vote on this issue. It's unlikely that they're going to vote on extending the subsidies. Republicans remain bitterly divided, and look, that's evidenced in the results of this vote. Some Republicans, as I just noted, Senator Hawley, Senator Murkowski, Senator Collins, voting with Democrats to extend those subsidies for 3 years. And ultimately, this is something that has divided Republicans as they look to find a way to keep costs low and, again, solve the issue of unaffordable health care before the 2026 midterm elections. It seems likely that we're going to go into early next year. The Senate will end out the year without doing anything to solve the question of affordable health care. even if some sort of bipartisan 11th hour negotiations were to take place. It's worth noting, Maritza, they only have 1 week to go before they're slated to leave on their holiday recess. Once they return, it'll be 2026. Open enrollment will be all but finished. Again, a lot of questions about how they can solve the issue of affordable health care, given that they just cannot seem to even agree on what votes to take on the floor.
Yeah, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, I am trying to imagine what it's like to be a single mother who's trying to figure out how they're going to afford their bills in the next year, much less figure out health care's costs. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed, live on Capitol Hill for us. Thank you so much, Nate, for keeping us up to date.
Coming up on Today's It Happened.
The president is committed to stopping the illegal flow of drugs into our country. He's also fully committed to effectuating this administration's sanction policy, and that's what you saw and the world saw take place yesterday.
Welcome back to Today's It Happened. Let's return to our briefing of today's top stories.
Mike Lindell, officially running for governor of Minnesota. You may remember him from the MyPillow infomercials. The 64-year-old CEO and Trump ally just launched a campaign website and lists his main priorities as stopping fraud and sending the illegal immigrants back. Lindell has been at the center of a number of legal issues surrounding his 2020 election claims. He joins a crowded field of candidates hoping to unseat Democratic Governor Walz. Moments ago, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt briefing members of the White House Press Corps, and then our own Scripps News White House correspondent Haley Bull was in the room for those remarks. So Haley, we heard Leavitt speak a little bit about this recent Venezuelan oil tanker seizure. What did she have to say?
Yeah, Maritza, we're learning new details about that seizure, and one of the big questions here has been the United States' reasoning for moving forward with such an action, and the press secretary indicating that the president considers this effectuating sanctions policy. The press secretary is saying that that vessel is currently undergoing a forfeiture process, that the investigative team is on board, interviewing people who are on board, seizing evidence. It will eventually go to a U.S. port with the intention, she says, for the U.S. to seize oil, but reiterating that there is a legal process here that will be followed. Now, one thing that the press secretary did not delve into is whether the administration views this as upping the pressure on Venezuela, more specifically Nicolas Maduro, as President Trump has in recent days told Politico, for instance, in an interview that Maduro's days were numbered. The president has previously also insinuated land strikes to counter drug trafficking could be a possibility, though not specifying countries. When the press secretary was pressed on this front, she reiterated that the president is not interested in a prolonged war. This is what she had to say about that vessel in particular. Listen.
And there are two things that are very important to this administration. Number one, stopping the flow of illegal drugs into the United States of America, which we know has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. The president promised on the campaign trail that he would demolish the foreign terrorist organizations and drug cartels around the world, especially right here in our own hemisphere, and you have seen that he is delivering on that promise. With respect to the oil and what happened yesterday, the Department of Justice requested and was approved for a warrant to seize a vessel because it's a sanctioned shadow vessel known for carrying black market sanctioned oil to the IRGC, which you know is a sanctioned entity. So the president is committed to stopping the illegal flow of drugs into our country. He's also fully committed to effectuating this administration's sanction policy, and that's what you saw and the world saw take place yesterday.
Maritza, that vessel, the skipper, according to a U.S. official, the seizure in international water taking place without incident. And as the press secretary indicated there, this was a sanctioned entity.
And Haley, a lot of people wondering if we're going to see any movement on a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. What did we learn on the possibility of that happening?
Yeah, that is certainly the big question. The press secretary indicating that the administration is still engaged, but leaving a question mark on whether the president would move forward with meetings he indicated the Europeans want him to have with President Zelensky over the weekend. The press secretary saying that the president is extremely frustrated with both sides and indicating that he would only move forward with meetings if they feel that they are worthy, saying it is up in the air. At the same time, though, she said that the negotiating teams continue to be talking with both sides. Additionally, Maritza, she indicated that President Trump is aware of President Zelensky's latest proposal, as we have seen the country's work to refine the United States' initial 28-point peace plan.
All right, finally, Haley, the White House commenting on the issue of affordability. We know the president had that big rally in Pennsylvania a couple of nights ago, issue that's top of mind for many, many Americans. So what are we hearing today about the framing of that messaging?
Yeah, the White House is really doubling down on their framing around the state of the economy. And what they are reiterating is their view, the press secretary saying the best is yet to come. They believe that they inherited issues from Democrats who they are seeking to put the blame on for any pain Americans are feeling in the economy right now, and shared the message that the president is making progress on a promise to fix the economy. They are touting what they call, quote, tremendous progress, pointing to the rate of inflation in particular, which has come down from the high under the Biden administration from around 9%. But in recent months, while under 3%, has slightly ticked up since April as well, Maritza. But we are seeing a heavy focus from this White House on the issue of affordability as they try to criticize Democrats in this vein. And as we expect them to push that message more, Vice President J.D. Vance also expecting to be talking about affordability next week in Pennsylvania as well, Maritza.
All right, Scripps News White House correspondent covering it all for us, Haley Bull. Thank you.
We'll be back in just a moment as we continue tracking today's top news. Welcome back to Today As It Happened. I'm Stephanie Liebergen. Let's continue our walkthrough of the day's top headlines.
A federal judge in Maryland ordering ICE today to release Kilmar Abrego Garcia immediately while his legal challenge moves forward. He's the immigrant whose wrongful deportation to El Salvador became a flashpoint in Trump's immigration enforcement strategy. The Department of Homeland Security called the ruling naked judicial activism and vowed to fight it. Now, Abrego Garcia also faces federal human smuggling charges in Tennessee. The past 24 hours have been a wild sequence of events for Michigan football and its fans. Head coach Sharon Moore was fired on Wednesday after an alleged inappropriate relationship with a staffer, and then hours later, he was arrested. Scripps News Group's Darren Cunningham joins us now live from Detroit, Michigan with the very latest. So Darren, help us break this all down. Let's unpack how these events unfolded.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, Maritza. A dramatic turn of events for former University of Michigan football coach Sharon Moore, arrested and fired within the same day. The Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office, that's where Ann Arbor is, the prosecutor's office says that he is in the jail behind me here. They did confirm that for us on an alleged assault charge. The details of that incident at this point in time are not clear. Those are under wraps. But Wednesday afternoon, the university announced his termination as head coach, saying that he had, quote, an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. As for where that alleged assault occurred, it is our understanding that the Pittsfield Township Police responded to an address reportedly linked to a university staff member. So at this point in time, charges are pending. However, the Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office says that they do not anticipate that any charges will be issued today, but more is expected to be arraigned tomorrow. So we'll stay on top of that. Maritza?
Okay, but I have to ask you about this because the University of Michigan is set to play in a bowl game on New Year's Eve. So what does that look like?
Yes.
Has the new head coach been announced?
They have Biff Poggi. They ended up naming him as the interim in the meantime. He's been interim before, so he is familiar with this program, and so he will be at the helm for the time being until they obviously will need to name a new head coach. So a lot going on here in Ann Arbor, and so the university will just have to ride this out, and more distractions that they've had compared to what they've been seeing in recent years.
Yeah, play on the word more there. Scripps News Group, Darren Cunningham, thank you so much for joining us live, and thanks for your reporting. All right, folks, the news here keeps coming, and this might be good news for you if you're hoping to get some extra cash in your pocket before the holidays. Still time to become a billionaire before the new year. The massive Powerball jackpot has now grown to $1 billion. This is the 7th largest amount in Powerball history. The next drawing set for Saturday. If you win and you take the cash option, you could walk away with $461.3 million. Your odds, though, of winning 1 in 292 million. So you're saying there's a chance.
Coming up on Today's It Happened.
Foreclosure activity is up nationwide. Coming up, why that might not be as bad as it sounds.
Welcome back to Today's It Happened, Scripps News end-of-day snapshot of our biggest stories. So let's pick up right where we left off.
Affordability and the economy continue to be top issues for Americans. And according to a new AP NORC poll, most U.S. adults disapprove of how President Trump is handling the economy. Scripps News national correspondent Cassidy Tubman joins us now live from New York with the latest on this. So, Cassidy, you've been looking more into how Americans are feeling about the economy. We've seen the president try to get out and do some messaging on this. What are people saying? How are they feeling about things, especially as we head into this holiday season?
Well, Maritza, the headline is most people aren't happy. The president has touted the economy. In an interview earlier this week, he told Political that he would give himself an A+++++ rating, if that's 5 pluses if you weren't counting. But a lot of Americans do not agree with that grade. Nearly 7 in 10 U.S. adults say the economy is in poor shape, according to a new poll from the Associated Press and NORC out today. And we're seeing that at just 31% approving of how President Trump is handling the economy, and that's down from 40% in March. Actually, that's his lowest rating on the economy during either of his terms. Meanwhile, the White House has put a new focus on affordability. The president has gone back and forth on mocking the idea of affordability and addressing it. And when he has addressed it, he's blamed the Biden administration. We saw earlier this afternoon, he posted that he inherited a mess from the Biden administration and the worst inflation in history. Inflation was high under Biden, peaking at around 9%, but we should note that it was not the highest ever. And economists we spoke with said the issue of affordability is really hitting Americans hard right now. Here's what she said.
People are really concerned about affordability, specifically things like housing, groceries, and energy cost. And at this point, lots of households, again, across the political divide, are reporting that they have been cutting back on discretionary spending and trying to refocus their resources into things like saving or to covering those essential goods and services.
Now, Maritza, according to the latest federal data, groceries, housing, energy bills, essentials are costing more. They're costing Americans more compared to a year ago. But that data might not tell the full story, and that's what Hall told us, and that's because we're still missing key data due to the government shutdown. And that's made it trickier for economists to know what's going on in the economy as we are going forward. But ultimately, Americans will judge where we stand when they go to the grocery store and see their energy bills. And right now, they're seeing those things go in the wrong direction. Maritza?
Yeah, Scripps News national correspondent Cassidy Tubman live in New York for us. I think you make a good point. We all know when we go to the store what the prices are and that our bills are higher in some places for some items. Thanks so much for your reporting. And a quick look at social media reels, and it's clear. Go on any of these sites. The country is divided into the haves and have-nots. You have influencers showing off their designer clothes and five-star vacations. There are others who share stories of making family dinners on a budget. And that right there is what people and economists call a K-shaped economy. We're also seeing people asking for help, financial help right now on social media platforms. Higher income Americans are seeing income and wealth rise, while lower income households struggling with weaker income gains and steep prices. And earlier today, my colleague and friend Stephanie Liebergen spoke to Mark Hamrick, a senior economic analyst with Bankrate, about this phenomenon.
This K-shaped economy, how would you kind of explain it to folks who are not, surrounded and living in the economic world?
Good to be with you, Stephanie. Well, the reality is everyone is living in the economic world. They may not use the same language that we use, and I think that lived experience is what is propelling the forces in our society today that are underscored by dissatisfaction over affordability concerns. And essentially, the estimates vary, but there are some estimates that indicate that the top 10% of wealthy Americans in this country are responsible for up to 50% of spending. Chairman Powell said yesterday that 1/3 of the top Americans are responsible for what he said are way more than 30%. And of course, then you have middle and lower income Americans who are struggling to buy the things they need, not so much what they want. And so the K is really two legs going in opposite directions, one going higher, one essentially flat or lower. And affordability, inflation, elevated prices, they're all intertwined in this situation.
So how did we get here? How did we get to this place where some of the economic numbers, the stock market today, the Dow reaching a new record high, some of the numbers look good, but Americans say they don't feel good about the economy. How did we land in this position?
On the one hand, Stephanie, you could say this has taken a long time and has been in process for many years with, I would say, to some degree, the hollowing out of America's middle class, and that's been borne out in the political dynamics that we see today, where you have a polarization and you have progressives on one side, the Trump movement on the other, and seemingly hard to find something that's in between. But I think all of it is propelled by this income and wealth divide. How did we get here? Well, I think one of the chief dynamics was, of course, the pandemic. When we had the economy shut down, we then had the rapid reopening that led to high inflation, the worst inflation in a generation, and then we had the war in Ukraine, which gave another leg up to inflation. And all along, we had lower income Americans doing better with wage growth, but still having this constant step up with price levels. Inflation up 3% year over year, but that means prices continue to go up. And so unless we get some further declines in the upward rate of inflation, unless we get a better job market that helps people to achieve their financial goals, we're going to be in this for a while. And it's wise for elected officials, including the occupant of the White House, to pay attention to the affordability concerns, since that's one of the reasons that he was elected to go to the office and try to resolve them as he promised he would, leaving aside how much power a president has to control inflation.
Well, you mentioned job rates and job growth. You mentioned inflation. Those are two key things that the Federal Reserve is charged with kind of keeping in that sweet spot. So what role is the Fed playing in this K-shaped economy we're stuck in?
Well, the Fed isn't able to resolve it per se, but the Fed's major missions in life are really centered around two things: maximum employment, a strong job market, and stable prices, lower inflation. And right now, it's not achieving either of those two targets, but believes the greatest amount of risk is centered around weakening the job market. It was quite stunning to be in the room yesterday to hear Chairman Powell say that he believes that monthly jobs creation right now is running as many as 60,000 jobs below what's actually being reported. That's not because of a conspiracy. It's not because of an inflation, so to speak, of the data. It's about the difficulty in measuring what's been happening in the job market. And at some point in the future, we'll get to some revisions like we had in the past year. Bottom line, job market is relatively weak. It's been cooling for some time. It's leading to longer search times. It's leading to frustration, and it also undermines job security.
So what do we need to get out of this K-shaped economy we're stuck in? What needs to happen to help lower income Americans start to recover and kind of try to lift themselves up and closer to the middle class?
Well, number one, we need lower inflation. That's not going to lead to a significant lowering of prices. But if we get inflation that is occurring at a lower rate, let's say the Fed's 2% target year over year or on an annualized basis, then presumably we can also have some better wage growth. But we don't want to get to lower inflation through a recession or anything like that. There's only so much the Fed can do. There's only so much the president can do. But I would say for any president, there's also the notion of to do no harm. And some of the policy prescriptions that have been sort of put out there are actually exacerbating the problem. For one, we have less growth in the labor force, both through legal and illegal immigration. That was one of the primary drivers of growth in the job market in recent years. The other policy prescription, while we understand the objective is to shore up the nation's manufacturing sector, manufacturing in the U.S. right now is essentially flat on its back. It's not contributing to U.S. growth, and with tariffs, we have both a hindrance of U.S. growth as well as an upward influence on inflation. So you want to have policy prescriptions that actually help the situation, that do no harm, and people will debate what those might be, but those would take broader, probably bipartisan responses, the likes of which, we're not likely to see anytime soon, given the fact that the Congress was only able to, or capable, willing to fund the government through the end of January. And yes, we are staring at the possibility of yet another government shutdown come early in the year.
Yeah, bipartisanship on Capitol Hill, something I think we all wish there was a little bit more of, that compromise we all wish we could get. Mark Hamrick, Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate, thanks so much for spending some of your time with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Foreclosures up now throughout the country. That includes default notices, auctions, bank repossessions, all up double digits. But experts tell us those stats might be more of a return to normal than a warning sign. The statistics are high. Foreclosure filings in November up 21% from last year, while completed foreclosures surged 26% year over year, according to real estate data firm Adam. But Bankrate housing market analyst Jeff Ostrowski says we're not looking at a dire situation.
The thing to keep in mind about these foreclosure rates is that foreclosures were kept artificially low throughout the pandemic.
Broker and CEO of Echo Fine Properties in South Florida shared the sentiment.
And the reason it's not dire is that if you're starting with a low baseline, so doubling the number 1 is 2. That doesn't mean it's a scary number, though.
Delaware leads the nation in foreclosure rates, followed by South Carolina and Nevada. Among major cities, Philadelphia has the highest foreclosure rate, followed by Las Vegas, Cleveland, Ohio, and Tampa, Florida.
Foreclosure is definitely financially devastating for the homeowner who's going through it, but it's also just a normal and healthy part of the housing market.
Foreclosure rates ending this year are well below historic highs, in part because less homeowners are underwater after home prices spiked during the pandemic.
So many homeowners have so much equity, you'll sell it if you're in financial distress, but you're unlikely to lose the home to foreclosure.
That means a lot of homeowners have a buffer when it comes to mortgage payments, even in more difficult economic times. But that's not to say consumers aren't feeling the pressure of inflation, rising property taxes, and homeowners insurance.
For the middle class or upper middle class, it takes time because you don't notice it right away. But once you get to month 3, 4, 5, or 6, all of a sudden you have to adjust your lifestyle. And we're starting to see some of that.
Lichtenstein expects the upward trend in foreclosure activity to continue into the new year, but he doesn't see another housing emergency on the horizon, with banks more willing to work with homeowners than in the past. And if you're behind on your mortgage, experts say be proactive. Contact your lender to explore options like a forbearance, or you can look for state-level assistance programs. You might be able to avoid a foreclosure if you have fallen on hard times.
More of today's top stories ahead on Today's It Happened. Stay with us. Thanks again for joining us on Today's It Happened. I'm Stephanie Liebergen with your daily look at the day's biggest stories.
Well, it's a sign of the times that Time Magazine's Person of the Year is not a person at all. Well, not one person. It has named the architects of AI for this honor. Officials at Time say in 2025, artificial intelligence became part of everyday life, affecting everything from the economy to schooling. This edition of the magazine will have two covers. One, as you see here, has the letters AI under construction, while the second features tech titans including Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk posing like that famous historic photo. The man accused of shooting and killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk in September was in court today. It's the first time in many weeks we've actually gotten a glimpse of Tyler Robinson. And Scripps News senior national investigative correspondent Lori Jane Gliha watched this hearing. So Lori Jane, get us up to speed. What went down today?
Hey, Maritza. Well, this is the first time Tyler Robinson appeared physically in person rather than virtually in court. The hearing today is actually still going on. I'm monitoring it. They just went in for more than an hour into a private session, and the public has just been allowed back in. So I'm going to keep my eye on that. But today they've been discussing how a transcript from a previous closed hearing in October would be handled and whether part of it would continue to be public or not. Now, the most interesting part of today really was what the cameras were allowed to capture so far. And you could see Tyler Robinson sitting there in the courtroom in civilian clothing, a dress shirt and a tie, not in any jail clothing. And his demeanor seemed to include some smiles with the people who were sitting at his defense table as he conferred with them in the courtroom. The interaction seemed pleasant, ahead of the hearing at least. None of the video we see moving forward will be of Robinson walking into or out of that courtroom at any point. And that is because the court established some rules ahead of the hearing which required any camera in the courtroom to only show Tyler Robinson while he is seated at his defense counsel's table and never in shackles. Also, there was a rule established, Maritza, that no cameras would be allowed to gather footage of Tyler Robinson's family if they are or were in the courtroom. Now, Robinson is facing the possibility of the death penalty, facing an aggravated murder charge, as well as several other charges like felony, discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice, and tampering with a witness, Maritza.
Okay, so Lori Jane, you said that no video was allowed of Robinson's family. Do we know if any of them were in court today?
Yes, so we were fortunate to hear at the beginning of this, before they went into this private session, some attorneys were trying to make the argument that his family should be allowed to remain in the courtroom when all of the public was asked to go outside. So we did hear him mention that his father, his mother, and his brother were all there in the courtroom today, Maritza.
All right, thanks so much for getting us updated. Scripps News senior national investigative correspondent Lori Jane Gliha. Thank you.
Straight ahead on Today's It Happened.
Our investigation has determined that Mr. Bard is a parent of a Kentucky State University student. We want to reassure the community that this was an isolated incident.
You're watching Today's It Happened, Scripps News recap of the day's biggest events. So let's dive right in.
And we are learning more about the shooting at Kentucky State University on Tuesday. Police say the suspect is a dad of two students there. The Scripps News Group is on the ground in Kentucky and Indiana covering the aftermath, and we will start with Lee Searcy in Frankfort digging into the suspect's background.
Jacob Lee Bard is 48 years old and lives in Evansville, Indiana. He's charged with murder and first-degree assault. According to his arrest citation, he was involved in a physical altercation on KSU's campus. And during the incident, police say he produced a handgun and shot two other individuals, KSU students. The Franklin County coroner says 19-year-old Dejon Fox Jr. died of his injuries. The other student remains in intensive care. That person's name has not been released.
Scott Tracy, Assistant Chief of Police at the Frankfort Police Department.
At a news conference this afternoon, Frankfort Police verified more information about Bard and tried to ease any fear about future campus safety.
Our investigation has determined that Mr. Bard is a parent of a Kentucky State University student. We want to reassure the community that this was an isolated incident. involving these specific individuals. And there are no active safety concerns on the campus of Kentucky State University at this time.
As we previously reported, police said campus security had quickly apprehended Bard after the shooting because they happened to be there. LEX 18 asked police and the KSU president if Bard had reported any prior safety concerns to campus officials.
Did Mr. Bard have a meeting yesterday with the school dean about his son's safety on campus and about any ongoing physical altercations that may have been occurring between others on campus and his son?
I can't comment on that right now, okay?
We wanted to know more about Bard, and what we found is this is a man who doesn't appear to have any record of serious criminal trouble in the past. When we looked into his court history in Indiana, where he lives, we found only minor traffic violations between 2001 and 2012 for seatbelt violations and expired tags. Thursday, he'll be arraigned in Franklin District Court on charges of murder and assault. Lee Searcy, Scripps News Group.
19-year-old Dejon Fox Jr. loved to dance and make his family smile.
When he come in, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh. You can be in the worst mood. He just gonna keep playing and keep playing.
Dejon Darrell Fox Jr. Dejon even danced across the stage as he received his diploma from Victory College Prep. His mother, Chardonnay Cleveland, said he loved being a student at Kentucky State University.
He loved it so much. I kept trying to get him to come back here to go to school.
Dejon's family learned Tuesday he was killed after a shooting on campus. Another student is critically injured. Police say the suspected gunman, Jacob Lee Bard of Evansville, is the father of another student.
You send your child to school, off to college, you don't expect anything like this. You expect them to do some things, but not this.
It's not fair. It's not fair to take my brother's baby. They're encouraged. Absolutely no firearms. How is that okay for him?
This has ruined a lot of children, not just ours, but you have traumatized a lot of children.
In a press conference Wednesday, police were asked about a video circulating on social media that shows a fight prior to the shooting. We don't have permission to show that video, but investigators say they do have it, and it is part of the investigation. The family has seen it as well.
If you were going to be the adult to show up, what you should have done was let them fight it out or try to stop the fight. You brought a gun to a kid fight.
Now, right before Christmas, Dejon's family is heartbroken knowing he won't be coming home for the holidays. His mom showed me the last video she took with him, a TikTok challenge.
And I really didn't know. Didn't know that was it. That was just last week.
It's a video she'll now cherish forever as her family demands justice. Nicole Griffin, Scripps News Group.
Thanks for spending part of your evening with Today As It Happened. I'm Stephanie Liebergen, and have a wonderful Thursday night.